Hello everyone, welcome to another great adventure over here on RJB Wildlife. On this adventure, we are at the world-famous San Diego Zoo, where I'm going to be giving you the State of the Zoo update. So if you're ready for another great adventure, let's go. Before we enter the San Diego Zoo, I want to address a couple of changes that are going to be coming to this series. This is going to serve as a little bit of an evolution for this series as we move into the future, as I really do want to showcase more of a fluid type of walkthrough that gives you a guided tour every once in a while to showcase the changes that have happened, but as well as some of the amazing things you're going to be able to see at this facility. This change also serves to kind of give you an idea of what the crowds are going to look like during the different points of the year, specifically with the changes to the parking fees happening at the San Diego Zoo that just got rolled out at the start of this year. So more or less, these are going to stay the same. They might just be a little bit longer as we focus on some other elements that are very important to your visits here to the San Diego Zoo. So if you like the changes being implemented on this update, be sure to comment down below whether you like them or not. That way we can move forward and see what is the best balance to bring you the content that you guys want to see as part of these updates. But with all of the housekeeping out of the way, let's go to the zoo. We're going to start the day on Front Street. Now, I've been here all morning, but we're going to start the report at around noon here on Friday, February 6th. And I want to start off with a little bit of what I'd like to call a vibe check here in this area, and then take a look at the app and see what's actually going on today at this facility. I would say you're looking at about decent-sized crowds here, nothing too terrible. The school groups have already kind of come and gone for the day. Some of them might still be lingering around, but this is actually a pretty healthy crowd here on Front Street. All right, so we're now in the app. We're just taking a look and see what the situation is. So hours are going to be 9 to 5 today. That should be continuing all the way up until March 14th, when the hours are going to go to 9 to 7. Once that happens, you're going to be looking at the spring break time. It's going to be much busier. February and January tend to be the dead periods here. From the looks of things, it looks like we have a giraffe feeding opportunity from 11:30 to 1:30. The ambassador presentation area over in Africa Rocks at 1, and then the Wildlife Wonders at Wegerforth Bowl at 2. And then as far as closures today, specifically habitat closures, you're going to have the fishing cat out of guest view. That's been that way for a while, and the Owens aviary is also closed for maintenance. So we're going to be checking on those here a little bit later today to see if anything's changed, but that's at least what the app is saying right now. But I would highly recommend getting the app simply because that is going to be the easiest way for you to get all of the information that's going on here officially from the zoo, and the official map that is going to show up here. You can actually track your location on it to see where you are. We are now making our way over to Wildlife Explorers Basecamp and Reptile Walk to start off this State of the Zoo update. The school groups tend to head this way towards the middle portion of the day, or I should say at the end of their little trip day here. But still going to have some really cool things and some things that we got to check out. And we're going to start today in Wildlife Explorers Basecamp, as per usual. And within Wildlife Explorers Basecamp, I like to make my way to the lower level first and then work my way up. So we'll start down on the lower level of Spineless Marvels. On the lower level where we are currently, they have replaced the screens that are in front of where the giant leaf insects are. The reason for this change was because the older screens, which were custom made, were starting to fall apart and they couldn't readily get the parts. So they switched them over to commercial grade, which is a little more convenient for this facility. So I guess recently they put the raccoon back in here. I think this is Skipper. He's going to be out and about running around. That's actually pretty interesting because he was over by where the squirrel monkeys are in Wild Woods. So to have him over in Rainforest again is interesting, considering there are a couple other developments going on, specifically over in Asian Passage, that will have something to do with Wildlife Explorers Basecamp. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we're going to head into Cool Critters, at least the lower level, see if anything's new in there. And down here in the lower level of Cool Critters, there has been a couple of developments, specifically with this habitat on the left as you exit. The green anaconda is back in here, and the basilisks are also back in here, which is actually pretty cool because they've been absent for a little bit, so to see them back in here is exciting. Also in this habitat that I'm pointing at, the Australian lungfish is in there, still haven't seen it, but he is now accompanied by some rainbow fish. So the lower level's starting to become alive a little bit with all of those habitats getting filled. One little shocking development that has started to become a little bit more of a mystery is what's happened with the fennec foxes. These guys have been off habitat for, I want to say, a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, and there has been no sign of them coming back, let alone any sign of them actually working on this habitat. I would assume they're going to come back because none of the signage has been removed, but it does seem a little conspicuous that that absence has been very lengthy. And upon entering Wild Woods, it does appear that the coati and the raccoon have swap places. So the coati's back in its normal habitat, or its original habitat when this space opened. And in order to get to the coati and the squirrel monkeys, you got to go through the water play area, which at this time of day gets very popular, so just be wary of that. We're about to leave Wildlife Explorers Basecamp, but we still have to cover the upstairs portions of the buildings. And we're going to start with Cool Critters. There is still one vacant habitat in the upstairs portion of Cool Critters, so hopefully soon we'll get to see a new species in that space. Uh-oh, the screen's broken. So outside of the screen being broken in Spineless Marvels, nothing's new on the upper floor. And that'll about do it with this area of the zoo. We're now going to head into, well, actually I lied. There is one more spot, and that is the hummingbird habitat. So we are now in the hummingbird habitat, and the reason we're in here is because there has been a new clutch of wattled jacanas that have hatched in here, and they are very small, so they're about only a week or two old at this moment in time, but the footage you're seeing is them of a few days old. And on another really interesting note, the name of this habitat is going to be changing here pretty soon. And the reasoning for that is because there are no hummingbirds in here, which isn't a terrible loss considering the hummingbird species that were in this habitat were, for the most part, native species. So, again, bummer there's no hummingbirds, but not the biggest thing in the world. This will be called the songbird aviary in time, or the songbird habitat in time. So, a little interesting development there. But that'll just about do it for Wildlife Explorers Basecamp. We're now going to make our way to Reptile Walk, which is right next door. And we're going to start right across the way from the hummingbird habitat with Komodo Kingdom. And our resident male just appears to be hiding in the back over there, so nothing too exciting and nothing really new over there. However, the female that's in the reptile house, I have been informed, might potentially be a breeding recommendation for this male. Now granted, she's 2 years old, so she's not huge. She's pretty small and not quite ready for any breeding. But it is encouraging that we're starting to see some development in that, as the older female we had did pass sometime last year, and this male's been by himself through the duration of that time. And now I want to transition to the reptile house. So the reptile house still has 8 habitats within it that don't have any residents, and then another 12 that have residents, but you can't identify them because there's no signage, which I get sometimes, and it takes some time for them to put things up like that. One species I have noticed that has been moved is the eyelash palm pit vipers. They went from the front corner by the Indian rock python all the way to the back corner by the Gray's monitor. Now we're walking through the actual Reptile Walk exhibit, the one that was built in 2012 and the namesake for this entire area. The Colorado river toads and San Diego gopher snake have been off habitat for quite some time to this point. The river toads have been off for about a year plus now. So it seems that this area is in a perpetual state of habitats being changed. Over in the turtle building, which we're heading to right now, the Malayan snail-eating turtles are also off habitat. This has been a spot that they've used for spotted turtles when they've had hatchlings, so there's a lot of spotted turtles back here. Outside of those little things, though, Reptile Walk is status quo. The gharials are still here. In fact, that male's gara is growing pretty quickly. And the Galapagos tortoises continue to be one of the more popular exhibits here. So definitely come check out Reptile Walk when you're down here. As we exit Reptile Walk, you kind of have to go straight back to the entry portion of the zoo. And we're going to take this time to head into Lost Forest and explore some of the cool things in the depths of the rainforest. And we're going to start on the upper level. And if you start at the top level, it makes it a little more convenient as you go to traverse all of Lost Forest, which takes you all the way down to the pandas when you're finished with it. But we're going to start this portion off in Monkey Trails, where we did get 2 new female mandrills, and they've been on habitat with the male for quite some time to this point. And from what it appears, they've actually been integrated in with the Schmidt's red-tailed monkeys that reside in Monkey Trails. The 2 females' names are Tangerine and Stella. They're about 3 and 5 years old. Stella's 3, Tangerine's 5. The one way you can tell them apart is Tangerine's got a little bit of a lazy left eye. But it is really cool that we have a breeding troop of mandrills over here. And as we leave Monkey Trails, we enter Gorilla Tropics. And as far as the gorillas are concerned here, it is status quo with Denny and Akuba. Nothing's really changing on that front. On that note with Gorilla Tropics, there is also nothing really new as it pertains to the bonobos. There hasn't been any conversation and or word about the status between Birdie and Vic or any of the breeding progress that's been going on there. So from what it appears, it does just seem that there's not going to be any bonobo babies in the future quite yet, but they are working to get there. We are now in the aviary trail. The Kagu is still chilling here. But I'm mainly down this trail because I want to talk about the Owens Aviary. This is a space that's been closed for 2 years now, a little over 2 years. And there is no sign of this actually reopening anytime soon. But it does seem right now that the future of this aviary is in question, so much so that it may very well be a part of the zoo's ongoing master plan conversations that are starting up again because of the anointment of Sean Dixon. We've now entered the lower level of Lost Forest, and there's a few things down here that we're going to talk about. We already talked about Monkey Trails and the addition of the 2 female mandrills here. I want to transition over to Tiger River. Yes, that's what it's called here, Tiger River. If the fishing cat is still off habitat, this will make about 4 months since the species has been gone. And yeah, it appears he is still not on habitat. That's a bit of a bummer. Hopefully this absence isn't further prolonged because he did just get here not too long ago, and it's kind of been a shame to have missed out on him all this time. But that new signage is an indication that he's not going to be going away. So, do know, he will be back in some time, but it's been a while, and we miss him. We want him back. Well, this is interesting. So this space next to the main Malayan tiger habitat had some Southeast Asian birds in it, and it's been vacant for quite some time, and now, from what it appears, they're getting rid of all of the old mesh and replacing it with new stuff and a little bit of paint maintenance. So upon exiting Tiger River, we are now making our way to Ituri Forest, which is the home of the zoo's hippos, one of their most popular exhibits here. But we're not here for the hippos. We're here for a new arrival. So new, in fact, it was actually born 5 days ago. And that new arrival is in the form of a new baby Schmidt's red-tailed monkey, or red-tailed guenon. These monkeys can be found at the end of the Ituri Forest Trail, or I should say the beginning, because the entrance is over here by the pandas. But it is across from the Red River Hogs, and it's across from the little waterfall where the otters are. This is also one of the higher energy areas here at the zoo, specifically with the wildlife. They're just hopping around, bouncing around, having a good time. In fact, earlier this morning, the adult Schmidt's red tails, or one of them, was running around playing with the little one and agitating the swamp monkeys they share their home with here. But it is really cool. The Schmidt's red tails here are a completely different group from the one up in Monkey Trails, so if you're looking for the baby, come down here to Ituri Forest, not up there. Now, the bulk of Lost Forest is done, but we're not quite done with the area yet, because, if you didn't know, Eagle Trail and the marsh habitat are technically considered part of Lost Forest. And the main reason we're up here is because of Eagle Trail. They have put in a new sign for the crowned eagles, indicating that this is going to be their future permanent home. And it's really cool because it is thematically consistent with the other signs. But the most exciting aspect of this area is that it appears the harpy eagles are actually nesting at this moment in time, and they've been taking turns. Now, it is unknown whether or not there are actual eggs in the nest. What I can tell you is the male and female are splitting time on it. So basically indicating that that is their spot, that is where they intend to nest if they do so. But some really cool signs going on here in Eagle Trail that we might potentially be seeing harpy eagle chicks in the future.
No, he literally...
We're now crossing the Bashore Bridge. Takes us all the way from Lost Forest, at least the upper level, to Northern Frontier and Elephant Odyssey. And we're going to start off in Northern Frontier on a little bit of a somber note. And if you've been here relatively recently, you will notice that the walls are down and you can get up to the fence. And that is because the pups are no longer on habitat, they're actually behind the scenes. And that is because what was 3 pups, unfortunately, has been decreased to 2, as one was unfortunately lost. Now this is very sad here for the San Diego Zoo because these were the first pups born here in about 70 years, if not a little over that, with the other 2 pups being cared for behind the scenes and hand-reared. It is highly unlikely that we will be seeing them back in this space with the parents. In time, the hope is to bring them back on habitat to this space, but it just won't be with the parents. So you'll probably see a rotation if the pups are brought back at all. So a big major disappointment to start our adventure in Northern Frontier, but I have one very exciting thing to share, and that is the status of Polar Bear Plunge. Now, Polar Bear Plunge is officially done with, I believe, the bulk of its entire project. However, there was an email sent out as part of the newsletter that this will be opening on February 27th, which is International Polar Bear Day, with some other little experiences that we'll get to see. Now, I can say that some of the biggest changes are right behind me here with the pup being taken out. The ice caves are still here, however, there wasn't anything done to them, maybe a little bit of touch-up paint here and there, but overall it looks the same. And from what I understand, it's not out of the woods yet. But Polar Bear Plunge definitely has a new lease on life with the new signage that has been sprinkled around here that emulates a lot of the modern things the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance has attempted to portray. And not only that, but the polar bears seem to be having a wonderful time in their new, slightly new renovated space. They did just add that little ice maker, but from what I've seen this morning, they have spent a lot of time in the pool. They have spent a lot of time running around, enjoying their new ice pile in the front by the glass. But if you're coming to check out Polar Bear Plunge, do so in the morning. Don't do it now, because you're not going to get much activity. But in the morning, they're going to be running around, playing in the snow. They are still on rotation, so Chinook and Takik for the foreseeable future, and I'm pretty sure forever, are going to be individually housed. There is also supposed to be a mural painted in this space. I don't know exactly where it's going quite yet, but it is supposed to depict the polar bears in different seasons up in the Arctic. So I'm very excited to eventually see that. Polar bears aside, there is one other little animal update up here, and that is over in the kudu habitat, where it appears they have erected a maternal pen in this space. Given the size of this pen, I'm assuming it's for the lesser kudus, but it could also be for the Speaks gazelles, we don't know. So super exciting to see that though, as we can expect a calf born there relatively soon. We are now entering Elephant Odyssey, where there's one main thing I want to check out here, but we're also going to check in to see who's in the main yard as far as the elephants are concerned. It appears that the bachelor herd is in the main yard today, which is really cool if you're in Mammoth Plaza, because if they decide to go in the pool and spar, it's a really fun viewing opportunity. And the focus with the boys is going to be Voos Moosey, as the prevailing theory is he will return to the safari park sometime later this year, with Elephant Valley about a month away. And although nothing is confirmed quite yet, that is the prevailing theory. The safari park wants this to happen, the zoo wants this to happen, and I believe the overall SSP wants this to happen to see if Voos Moosey is a viable breeding bull. Shaba's story here, on the other hand, is a little bit of a question mark. I know there have been some speculation and rumors that she may be joining the safari park's herd in time, but that's all really dependent on the matriarch of the safari park's herd, Swazi. As she can be pretty authoritative, that I've noticed anyway, specifically around the food items. She kicks her own family around, so I can only imagine what she would do with an outsider. So it remains to be seen what will end up happening with Shaba, but we're moving on to what is the main focus of Elephant Odyssey as it pertains to this update, and that has to do with the California condors. As there is now a second male that has joined the resident male in this space, and I'm pretty sure he arrived from the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, so there are a lot of fun developments over in Elephant Odyssey, not only with the future of the elephants at this facility, but the additions of some really cool condors that are an icon of conservation. So we're now in Africa Rocks, which is my favorite attraction here. But making our way through Africa Rocks, we are going to head down to the newest development, which is really the only thing I got to talk about down here. But if you are lucky and you are walking around Africa Rocks, specifically Ethiopian Highlands, you may see a baboon parade. And if you don't know what that looks like,
Oh, look at the babies on the back.
But yeah, anything that you have, send it over. They all look over on the flight on Monday.
super cool, right? Really interesting dynamics with the baboons here. But we're now making our way down to the Madagascar portion of Africa Rocks to check in on our 3 little Fusa pups that were born last year. And the pups have definitely been super entertaining. They've been more active during the day recently, specifically in the mornings, and overall that makes it very easy to see them. Mom goes and sleeps and then wakes up occasionally, but the pups are out just running around. But that's been less so recently because they're starting to get into that we're tired, sleepy stage of life. As this habitat doesn't have the best light exposure in the world, especially if you're trying to take pictures, keep an eye out for the crevices because they will like to hide in there, especially since they are pretty dark in color. So they're just going to blend in and you're never going to really see them if you're not paying attention. And there was one other thing with Africa rocks. I noticed today that the white-breasted cormorants were actually on habitat with the African penguins in the land portion of the habitat. Earlier this morning I did notice penguins swimming around in the deep portion, so they both have access, but I did just find that interesting that they did actually house them together. But that'll do it for Africa rocks, as there's a few exciting things going on there. We are now over here in Asian Passage, and I want to address the future of this area, but first I want to talk about what's going on currently, specifically with the red pandas. So it is currently 3:15, so around 2:45, and this is what the line looks like for Panda Ridge. It's a straight walk-on. Now the main reason for this is because the pandas are not very active. Singbao is sleeping behind a rock. Luckily I've compiled some footage of her over the course of the last few trips, and Yun Xuan is behind the scenes at the moment. So hopefully later he comes out, and if I can get any footage of him, I'll show some from later today. But that is not the main reason we're here. I know, shocking. Giant pandas are the main thing here at the San Diego Zoo. But I want to talk about the red pandas. The red panda, Adira, the female, is slated to get a boyfriend here in the near future. And when that does eventually happen, all of the breeding activity is going to occur over in Wildlife Explorer's Basecamp, if you remember from earlier today. But currently, you can see the red pandas here in Panda Ridge. Now, once that male does eventually arrive here, they're going to move over full-time to Wildlife Explorer's Basecamp. And then if a cub is eventually born in that area, the male will come back here. So that is kind of the state of things here in Panda Ridge with the red pandas. But that is the situation over here in Panda Ridge, which is the newest area of Asian Passage. And I want to turn our attention over to the old with Sun Bear Forest in Bear Canyon. Now, I did reference earlier the master plan that is currently being finalized and envisioned for this facility. And it has been widely speculated that this area in Bear Canyon, along with Urban Jungle, which we'll get to, will be the next big project. With the news revolving around the revised master plan, this seems to have halted a little bit, so we don't know exactly if this area is going to be changed or if it's somewhere else in the zoo. Now, Sun Bear Forest is a year younger than Tiger River. However, the species here, or the species that were the focal points of this experience, have been phased out of U.S. zoos over the course of the last decade, with sun bears being replaced by sloth bears in many facilities and lion-tailed macaques being replaced by Francois langurs. But if everything that I've heard is true, then Sun Bear Forest 100% is grounds to be a part of this project, if it is indeed this area. Now, one of the other leading indicators as to this area being the main focal point of an expansion is the future of the Andean bears. Both Alba and Turbo are slated to be moved out east, and the timeline of that is uncertain. If I had to guess, it'd be anywhere between now and next month. But that is a certainty. They are going to be leaving, which means the Andean bears are going to get phased out of this facility. The future of the grizzly bears is also up in the air, although that is not set in stone quite yet. And in fact, the exodus of Bear Canyon has started with the departure of Kartik, the male sloth bear who sired the 2 cubs born last year. Given that the San Diego Zoo is well known for its bear collection, I would assume that any project in this area would revolve around maintaining a bear species or 2, and I would like to think that they would stay within the confines of the SSP and AZA for sloth bears to further that breeding program, considering they were super successful with the last litter that was here. But the same could also be said for the Andean bears, so the Asia theming for this area could be out the window. It all really depends on what Sean Dixon wants for the San Diego Zoo going into the future. From Bear Canyon, we are now transitioning into Australian Outback, where there have been a couple of very exciting developments with the koalas here. And what I mean by a couple of exciting things is 2 new joeys. Those two new joeys are starting to emerge from the pouch, and they've been a lot more active as of late. With there being two koala joeys out here, be on the lookout in both of the female habitats, as all 8, at least I think there's 8 females in these, are housed in these areas, and 2 of which have joeys. Coolaroo, I know, is one of them, and the other one, I'm not entirely sure what the name is of that individual. So definitely be on the lookout, because when you do see them, it's really cool. In fact, the footage I'm showing you right now is from my last trip in the final minutes of the zoo's operating day. So it could be all the way up until 5 p.m. when you will actually see these joeys come out of the pouch. Definitely keep an eye on those last 2 yards, as those are going to be where the joeys are and all the females. The rest of the yards where you see one koala, all males. They're all going to be by themselves. So definitely keep that in mind. Females are going to be all the way at the end, males as you come up this trail. That now brings us to Urban Jungle, which is the final area here that we got to cover. And there's nothing much to cover. The giraffe calves are growing up. They're definitely thriving in that space. But this is one of the areas that is a part of that future expansion plot that may or may not happen at the end of this year. Urban Jungle, as it is currently built, is a relic of a time that, as recently as about 20 years ago or so, housed the zoo's elephants here. Now, Elephant Odyssey opened in 2009. Up until that point, they were being housed in this habitat that the rhino's being housed in. So I would definitely say this is an area that is going to get addressed, and the giraffes are a part of that as well. So it remains to be seen what the new leadership has planned for not only this area, but some of the other ones that we've covered today here at the zoo, specifically Northern Frontier, Bear Canyon, Sun Bear Forest, and even the Eagle Trail and Marsh Aviary, as those are also old relics. But one thing is clear as we close the door on this State of the Zoo and this new edition of State of the Zoo. If you are still here enjoying this, thank you for staying tuned into the future of the San Diego Zoo. It's a very exciting time here. As we're exiting the zoo, they have finally put up the ad and teaser for Elephant Valley at the safari park. Now it's starting to feel real. We're getting very close. So now that that's up there, that's the first time I've actually seen it. It's really cool. So exciting times ahead. That's going to do it for today. If you had fun on this journey, please hit the like button. And if you would like to embark on future adventures, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell. And until next time, I hope to see you all again on the next adventure on RJB Wildlife.